If you're somebody who has aspirations of designing and building a really awesome project, but you're not sure if you'll be able to, you're not sure if you'll be able to succeed, then today's episode is for you. I want to start by telling you that you will succeed. You can design and build something amazing. And that's because we live in the best age there's ever been for designing, building, learning new things. And one of the biggest reasons for that is the widespread use and improvement of AI over the recent years. AI has made access to information easier than ever before, and it's a technology that continues to evolve at a very rapid pace. So if you were using AI 2 years ago and you were struggling with it and having a hard time, try it again today, because it's going to be different today than it was 2 years ago. And in most cases, it's going to be better. And the interesting thing about AI is that even though we know how to build large language models, we're still learning a lot of things about how they work and how to best utilize them. So in today's video, I want to share with you 3 tips to better use AI for completing and building your projects. And I bet that some of these tips will be new to you, and I guarantee they'll be able to help you succeed on your next project. Before we get into those 3 tips, I want to start by saying that AI is a very underutilized tool, which might sound kind of funny because people are using it every day, everywhere. But it's underutilized in the sense that people sometimes underestimate what it can do, and sometimes they're not using it properly in order to get the outcome that they want. And in this video, I'm assuming the outcome that you want is to design and build a new project. And I was talking to a family member recently who is somewhat of a designer himself, is interested in building and designing things, and is very skilled, great with computer science. But I was talking to him, and he was telling me about a project that he had done a few years ago, and how frustrating it had been. And he wasn't able to finish the project, and it had to do with some microcontroller programming. And he was expressing his frustrations at the time, and then kind of almost like throwing in the towel, saying that maybe that wasn't for him. Those kind of projects weren't for him, is kind of what I gathered. And it makes me sad to hear things like that, because the truth is he can succeed at that same kind of project that he attempted a couple years ago, and similar types of projects. And I know that you also can succeed, even if you've never done some awesome microcontroller programming project, or building some smart home device, or creating some CAD assembly for your 3D printer. Even if you've never done any of those things before, I guarantee that you can succeed at it. And I hope that teaching you a few principles today about how I use AI to design things that I've never learned anything about before will help you complete your project. And that's the truth. I use AI to design and build things that I never learned in school, that no one's ever taught me before, and that really I know nothing about. And I'm able to do it effectively and quickly because of sometimes the way that I'm prompting AI, and more than anything, just the belief that I can succeed. Somehow I obtain this belief that I can design and build anything that I want to. And that's the belief that I want to instill in you today. One simple example of something that I've been learning recently, and this is just in the past couple weeks, is learning how to design a progressive web application, a PWA. If you're a computer science person, you're probably very familiar with these. It's essentially a website, a web application that you can run on a mobile smartphone, and it acts and feels like a native app, an application that you would download from the App Store. And I've been learning how to implement a progressive web application myself, and I've been building it along with a smart home project that I've been working on. I've been designing a smart shade for one of our windows that I can raise and lower using a little electric motor, and I wanted the app to look really nice and feel like a native app that I'd get from the App Store. So I've been working on that, and I've been learning how to create my own PWA, and it's been really successful so far, and I really haven't spent that much time working on it. So I hope that will encourage you to realize that you can do something similar. And just for the record, I never learned anything about PWAs in college, in school, And I think probably most of my coworkers, I work at an engineering company, most of them have probably never built a PWA, and a lot of them might not even know what it is. So you are in the same boat as me and a lot of engineers and a lot of people who want to design and build projects similar to the ones that you want to design and build. One more thing that I want to say before I get into these 3 tips that I want to share with you today is I want to give a few cautions actually with using AI. And one of them is that you drive the conversation. The AI does not lead or drive the conversation. The reason I want to start with this is recently, ChatGPT in particular, that's the one that I primarily use, but I assume that there's some similarities going on with the other AI large language models, Claude, Gemini, Copilot. But ChatGPT is the one I've been using, and I've noticed it's gotten kind of long-winded recently, and it likes to end a prompt with a question, saying it'll answer your question. For example, if I'm researching PWAs and I'm like, okay, what do I need to do next to get this PWA to work? It'll answer my question, and then it'll say, I can explain a little bit more about how a service worker works. Would you like me to explain it to you? And it tries to keep the conversation going. It tries to suggest a next thing that you might want. Some of the times I do want that thing. That was like the next step that I was going to get to in my conversation that I was having with the AI. But sometimes it's not. And sometimes it's just kind of like a random thing, and it looks like really shiny and attractive. And I'm like, oh yeah, I do want to know that too. And so I'm like, yeah, sure. Tell me about it. And then it'll like tell me about that next thing. And then it'll finish with like, would you like me to explain this next thing that is related? And it can be a little dangerous to just start going down these rabbit holes. And the reason I say dangerous is just because you're going to spend a lot of your time and, in a sense, waste a lot of your time, because it's going to take you away from the goal or the outcome that you initially wanted. So I want to give that caution that don't let AI drive the conversation, because sometimes it's just going to suggest different things over and over. And before you know it, you're just on a passive ride, like you're watching YouTube videos and you're just letting the algorithm choose the next video for you, or Netflix. And before you know it, you're not the one in control in the driver's seat anymore. So I want to give you that caution. When you're using AI, you want a particular outcome. You're using it for a particular purpose. So achieve that outcome, focus on that purpose. Don't let it get you sidetracked. And also, if you're looking for more concise answers, I mentioned that ChatGPT has gotten a little long-winded. Sometimes I just want a quick answer and I get like multiple paragraphs and super long thing. If you want more concise answers, just tell the large language model that you want more concise answers. I do this sometimes. I'm like, give me a short, like just a few sentences, just answer this question. Don't say anything more about it. And then I ask the question and it will comply with that request. And if you want like a 1-sentence answer, you can tell it to give you a 1-sentence answer. And I would say most of the time it will deliver on that. So that's another tip to save your time, is to ask for concise answers, tell it exactly what you want. Otherwise, it's just going to ramble on and on. And then, of course, something that everyone knows, but I feel like I should just say it on here, is to verify any information that is critical or carries a high risk with it. For example, if you want to know what type of electric motor you should order for the e-bike that you want to build, and it suggests some motor that is $250, I would say there's somewhat of a high risk associated with that, because if you buy the wrong motor, you're out $250. And that's not necessarily what I would consider a trivial mistake, and a lot of people would be frustrated with that kind of mistake. So double check that information before you just go ahead and act on it. I think intuitively everybody knows this, but I just want to remind everyone that AI, even though it is very effective and very accurate, a lot of the time it does make mistakes fairly frequently. We call that hallucinating, when it'll just deliver information that's incorrect, and it will always sound just as confident when it's hallucinating as it will when it's giving correct information. And so just weigh the risk associated with the information before you act on it. If it carries a high risk, see if you can find another source, either on a simple Google search or talking to someone you know, or just verifying it in any way that you can. And the last thing that I want to caution you is to step back and seek a human guide. And that could be just someone to talk to. That could be switching over to YouTube and watching a human explain the same thing you're trying to learn about. Or if you just need an emotional support partner, for me, that's my wife. And the reason I say this is because sometimes you can get sucked into these really long like research sessions or conversations with AI. And I think sometimes it can start to feel a little bit lonely. And also, more than anything, it can start to feel really overwhelming. AI will spew out a ton of information sometimes. And when I'm researching something like a progressive web application, I'll realize, oh man, it's talking about HTML, CSS, JavaScript. Like, do I need to dive deep into each of those topics and become an expert in that? And then do I need to become an expert in cybersecurity? And AI is just going to be throwing out all these terms and all these things. And before you know it, I'm just totally overwhelmed. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I have to go back to college and get a certificate in cybersecurity or something like that. And the truth is I don't need to do that, but sometimes the overwhelm can set in. And this is where I just need to take a step back. And sometimes I just need to talk to my wife or talk to a friend and either just step away from the conversation that I was having with the large language model, or I just need to explain my overwhelm to someone like, man, I feel so overwhelmed. I'm trying to do this project. And that person, people are great for emotional support, and they will help you feel better, help you feel encouraged, and get you back on the right track. AI, on the other hand, is not an emotional support tool. There have been people, unfortunately, who are using it for that purpose, but a lot of those cases have not ended well. And AI is not a good emotional support tool. So please do not use it for that. It's excellent for information. It's excellent as, let's say, a business partner in learning how to design a product or run a business from an information standpoint, but it should not be used to support you emotionally or necessarily for encouragement, validation. That's where you need to turn to people, and you need to use the real people in your life. And sometimes you just even need to get on a YouTube video and watch somebody explain a concept, because there are some things that AI will never replace that are inherently human. AI may be better than humans at explaining information or performing certain tasks, but it will never replace humanity and the things that make us human and unique and special, which are everything that has to do with emotions and judgment calls. AI is not effective for those things. So those are my cautions that I just want to throw out there to help you have the best experience using your favorite large language model and using AI to help you succeed in the goals and projects that are important to you. So now I want to jump into the 3 tips that will help you more effectively use AI to help you save time and successfully complete your next project. The first tip that I have is somewhat of a niche tip, but I think it carries an important principle with it, which is there's kind of a unique and almost unintuitive way that you can prompt AI to get the result that you want. And I discovered this somewhat by happenstance out of frustration one day. What was happening was I had an image that I wanted to add on to. You've probably found yourself in this situation. I think the original image was AI generated, and it gave me like a square image or something, and I wanted to turn it into a landscape orientation with a certain pixel dimension size. So I fed that image back into the AI and said, don't change anything, but add on to the right side, and I just want it to look like seamless background that's already there. I want you to add on this much to the right side of the image until it meets this dimension criteria. I was like, don't change anything. And I fed it in, and then it's like, here you go. I did exactly what you said. Here's your new image. And I look at it, and it's changed. Like the main subject of the image was doing something different or had changed styles. And I was like, okay, well, you didn't actually do what I said. So make the image look like it did before. And then it thinks for a while and sends me back an image, and it's like, here you go. I changed it. Of course, it's like, what does it say? It's always like, oh, you're right. Yeah, good catch. This is changed. Let me change it back to the original image exactly like you asked me to. And then it's like, here you go. Here's the original image, but with the new dimensions. And of course, it's just something different in a new style. And I'm like, okay, this is frustrating. It's just going to keep saying, nice catch. Good job. Here's the thing you actually asked me for, and it's just never going to give it to me. So a little bit out of frustration, I asked it, I'm like, what prompt do I need to give you so that you will just keep the original image that I sent you and add on to the right side till it gets the proper dimensions? And I just asked it that. And interestingly enough, it came back and it's like, yeah, you need to be really specific in your prompts. Here's an example prompt that will get you this exact outcome that you want without changing the image. And it used a very specific verbiage in the prompt. It said outpainting, which is apparently the term that is used for adding onto an image. And it gave me this copy and paste prompt. I copied, pasted that prompt and said, now make an image following these instructions. And I hit enter. And it did exactly what I wanted it to. I got the image that I wanted. It looked exactly like the original, and it was added on. So I've been using that technique ever since for images in particular, where I will say, what prompt do I need to give you to get this particular outcome? And then I just describe the outcome in words. And then it gives me a prompt, and I copy and paste that prompt back in, and it gives me the outcome that I want. So that's really fascinating. If you ask ChatGPT to generate an image that meets a specific criteria, it fails. But then if you ask it what prompt you need to give it in order to get that outcome, and then you copy and paste that prompt and send it back to itself, it succeeds and gives you the outcome that you want. So that's a little bit unintuitive, but I've been finding it works really well, in particular with generating and editing images. And there may be other uses for it as well that I'm not aware of, that I haven't discovered, maybe that no one's discovered. That's the interesting thing about AI, is we're all learning together how to use it most effectively. So that's tip number one that I want to share. If you're getting frustrated and you're not getting the outcome that you want, ask the large language model what prompt you need to give it to get the outcome that you want, and then copy and paste that prompt back in. Really fascinating, really interesting, but I wanted to share that with you. That can save you a lot of time and a lot of frustration. Tip number 2. This one's going to sound obvious once I say it, but some people are not using this functionality or using this approach. A lot of people use AI to generate code, to write computer code, whether it be Python, HTML, whatever. AI is exceptionally good at writing code, and I use it all the time. I enjoy coding and I have some experience with it, but I don't have a computer science degree. I'm no expert by any means. And so often I use ChatGPT to write my code for me to achieve a particular outcome. And by default, I've noticed that most large language models do not comment the code very well, or the comments are very sparse. So a lot of times I will have it generate the code that I want to get the outcome that I'm looking for. And then I will copy and paste the code back in and say, now comment every line or section of this code so that I can understand what every single line does. And I'll feed it back in, and then it sends it back to me with really great comments, honestly better than any comments that I've seen from actual coders. A lot of computer coders are iffy on the comments, I've noticed, and large language models do a great job. And then rather than feeling overwhelmed by not being able to read the code, or rather than going line by line and asking the AI, what does this line of code do? What does this section of code do? That takes a really long time. It's kind of draining. Then I can go through and just read the comments associated with the code. And I've found that it's really effective. And a lot of times I then understand the computer code. And I'm like, okay, great. I can edit this myself now. There may be a couple sections that I'm still confused about, and those ones I can feed back in or ask it to update the comments in those sections because I don't understand them, and just kind of fine tune it from there. But the principle here is that you can get AI to generate something for you that works, that gets the outcome that you want. You can test that code, run it real quick, okay, this works, this is what I want. Now, please go back and comment the code so that I can understand it clearly. That's a really effective tool that I use very often, and if you've never used that before, I would definitely recommend it. Tip number 3 is something that is very powerful, and some people know about it, but it may be new to you. You might not know about this trick, but tip number 3 is to give the AI a role in your conversation, or tell the AI what your role is. And interestingly enough, this will change the type of answers that you get and can help you get a better outcome faster. So what I mean by give the AI a role is when you're prompting it, tell it, think like a senior design engineer, or think like you are my mentor at an engineering internship, or something like that. You give it a role. A lot of times I will say, think like an electrical engineer, and pretend that I'm an electrical engineering student, and explain to me how I need to wire this breadboard so that I can get this motor driver working for this particular DC motor. And I'll get really precise answers with really precise language, where maybe I don't want a super general long-winded response. If I tell it to assume this particular role, then it'll assume that I have a certain level of knowledge, that I understand maybe what ground is and how voltages and resistance and things like that work. And so it'll just assume those things and give me a more direct, precise, concise answer. And there is a lot of untapped potential here. I could use this tip better myself. Where I first learned it was in a book called Co-Intelligence, written by Ethan Mollick. Really interesting book if you're fascinated by AI and you want to hear this author's perspective on how to best use AI and where he thinks the future of AI is going. I would definitely recommend it. Co-Intelligence by Ethan Mollick. I listened to the audiobook version. It's actually not a very long book. And I learned a lot of gold nuggets from it. It was really fascinating. Kind of fun to listen to the audiobook as well. Some of the voices were a lot of fun in there. So that's where I first learned this tip. But it is very powerful. And just be creative when you're thinking of roles to give yourself or to give the AI. For example, you can tell it to conduct an interview with you. Let's say you are planning out some design project that you're very new to. You don't even know what questions to ask to learn how to do something. Like, let's say you wanted to build an app like me, and you don't even know that progressive web applications exist, but you want the app to, work well for your project. You describe the project that you want to do, and then you can tell it, take the role of a senior design engineer who's helping an intern on their very first project and conduct an interview with me, asking me all of the most important questions that I need to answer in order to succeed in this project. Don't give me any design advice yet until I ask you to, but conduct the interview hitting these main points or whatever. And then you can let the AI generate the questions that it will ask you about your design then, which kind of flips the role that we typically do, where we're asking the AI the questions, we're coming up with all them. And once again, this is still you leading and driving the conversation, but you're just flipping the roles. So you're letting the AI do some of the work that you don't know how to do. You can get really creative with these kinds of things. And like I said, this is something that I could definitely get better at. But if you're not getting the results you want from the AI, give it a particular role. Like, think, if I were to have access to any human in the world to help me right now get the information I want, who would it be? And then tell the AI to be that person, or to think like that person, to take that role, and you'll get better answers. I hope these 3 tips will help you to feel more confident and to succeed in your next project. Let me know in the comments below which tip you found most useful, or if there were any that surprised you. I'd be very interested to know. And more than anything, I just want to tell you that you can succeed at learning something new and at designing and building an awesome, amazing new project that you've never done before. And I think AI is going to be the most useful tool to help you succeed quickly. I also want to thank you for making it this far in the video and for supporting my channel. My channel is still very small, very new, so I am grateful for the people who've been supporting me. And I want to give you a free gift, which is my AI playbook called 10 Essential AI Prompts for Designing Anything. And there will be a link in the description below. Click on that link and I will send you the PDF playbook, and it is going to help you to succeed in your next project. You can copy and paste the prompts from there. You'll just fill in a couple pieces of information that are missing, but you can copy and paste those prompts, and they're the same kind of prompts that I use to save hundreds of hours learning and designing something new. So check out that free gift below. Once again, thanks for supporting my channel. It always helps if you like, subscribe, share this video with someone else who would benefit from it, and I look forward to chatting with you again next time.